Hello and welcome to our video on Mishnah concept, Mishnayot Shabbat concept number 28. In this video, we're going to learn that to be guilty of working on Shabbat, you must do the job in a normal way. If you do a job in an abnormal way, you are not guilty. So, for a funny example, are you guilty for carrying a rock on your nose? Well, you can't carry, but it's not normal to carry things on your nose. So, I guess you wouldn't be guilty. And now, once you have that concept, you could understand a whole bunch of Mishnayot, which we're going to learn on the next slide. Says the Mishnah in Perek Yud, Hamotzi bein biyamino bein bismolo. If you carry an object in your right hand or your left hand, betoch cheko, underneath your armpit, or aktefo, or your shoulder, chayav, you are guilty. Shekei masa b'nei kahat. That was the way the children of Kahat carried. So if you look at this fellow over here, it's quite normal to do what he's doing, to carry in your right hand, left hand, under your arm, even on your shoulders. Those are all normal ways of carrying, so you will be guilty. Kila'acha yado. If you carried it on the back of your hand, biraglo, on his foot, bepiv, in his mouth, marbeko, or in his elbow, bazno, in his ear, bisaro, his hair, or bepundato, or in his belt, bepiha, mupiha lemata, facing downwards, bein pundato lechaluko, between his belt and his cloak, besvat chaluko, in the hem of his cloak, benalo, it is shu, besandalo, or his sandal, patur, he's not guilty. Because he didn't do it in a normal way. So here the Mishnah just gave us a whole bunch of not normal ways to carry things, and you won't be guilty. Right? On your hand, on your foot, in his elbow, right? That's not exactly the normal way to do things. On his belt, now it may be normal to put things in your belt, but if you put things facing downwards like that, so they could fall out. That's not really a normal way to carry things responsibly. Okay? And then obviously these silly examples in your mouth, your ear, or in your hair, well, that's just strange. Now, who would do these type of things? If it's in a situation where there's an urgent need to carry on Shabbat for somebody's health, and it's possible to carry it in these ways to make a shinui, to do it abnormally, so that it's preferable to do it that way, so you're not getting a sin offering. It's not as big of a sin. Okay? Says the Mishnah, Hamiskaven lo yotzi b'lefanav. If he wanted to carry an object in front of him, muval lo la'acharav, and he was carrying like a purse, it came behind him, just swung while he was walking. Patur, he's not guilty. Lacharav uvalo lefanav. If it was behind him and it came in front of him, chayav, he's guilty. Now, why is this? Very simple. When you have a bag or something in front of you, you can watch it. No one could pickpocket you because it's right in front of you. So therefore, that's the normal way to carry it. But if you're carrying it behind you, someone could come and pick your pocket. That's not exactly so safe, and therefore it's not the normal way to carry. So, if you had in mind to walk like this, and then it moved in front of you, well, you would be guilty because that is the normal way of doing it. But if it was the opposite, if you had in mind to carry it in front of you, and while you were walking it shifted in back of you, since that is not the right way to do it, it's considered abnormal, you wouldn't be guilty in that case. Continues the Mishnah. Be'emet amru, in truth they have said, ha'isha ha'chogeret b'sinar, bein milefanea, bein milacharea, chayav. If a woman attaches under her clothing, she wants to carry, and she fastens an object there so that she can carry, and it moves around in front of her, behind her, since that's expected for that to happen, she's guilty of carrying. Right? You can't hang an object from your clothing. And it's expected that it will move around, so that was what she was expecting. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, af mekable piskin. Rabbi Yehuda says, even those who are carrying letters. Right? You see over here, this fellow is carrying like a letter, and he's running, and it goes in front of him or behind him. Since it's normal when the person's running for that letter bag to go back and forth, he's guilty if it goes behind him or in front of him, it doesn't matter. Hamotzi kikar l'reshut harab. If you carry a loaf of bread to the public place, chayiv, you're guilty. Hotziu shtayim. If two people did so, pturin, they're not guilty. Lo yachal echad lo hotzio. If it was so big that one person couldn't carry it, v'hotziu shnayim, and two people did it, chayavim, they're guilty. Rabbi Shimon poter. Rabbi Shimon says you're not guilty. So let's look at the pictures over here. Right? We see one loaf of bread. It's normal for one person to carry, so he's guilty. If you have one loaf of bread carried by two people, that's not normal. Therefore, even though they shouldn't do that, again, any example where we say patur, it means not guilty of a sin offering, but you're not allowed to do it. But the reason why they don't have to bring a sin offering, because they did it in an abnormal way. It's not normal for two people to carry a loaf of bread. In the case of a giant loaf of bread, where it's not possible for one person to carry it, they are guilty because that would be considered normal for two people to carry it. So the Mishnah continues, if you take in less food, if you carry on Shabbat less food than you would be guilty for, if you carried it in a vessel, so you carried a small amount of food that's not significant, but you carried it in a container. So the question is, are you guilty because the container? Pater, you're not guilty. Afalakli. Why? Even for the vessel. Shaklit feilolo, because the vessel is considered unimportant. So if I carried a cup with like a speck of food in it, I'm not guilty for the speck of food, and I'm not guilty for the cup, because they're both considered insignificant. If I carried a live person on a bed, pater afal mita, I'm not guilty even for the bed. Why is that? Because we have a rule, a live person can carry himself, and therefore the fact that you're carrying him is not significant for a sin offering. You shouldn't do it, but it's not significant for a sin offering. And even the bed is considered insignificant because the bed is supporting the person. And the person you're not guilty for, then you're not guilty for the bed either. Shamitat feilolo, the bed is secondary to the person. At hamet bamita, if someone passed away, God forbid, and they carry him out on a bed, chayav, then they're guilty because he can no longer carry himself, so he's like, so to speak, dead weight. V'chein kezayis min hameis, similarly, a olive-size amount of a dead body, or kezayis min anavela, or a carcass of an animal, or chadasha min hasheretz, and a lentil-sized piece of a creepy crawly, which one would be impure if they touch, chayav, you are guilty. Rabbi Shimon poter, Rabbi Shimon exempts it. He says that it's he's not guilty for those things, it's too small. Here are the examples from the last slide. So he has a speck of food in a vessel, he's not guilty even for the vessel. If he's carrying a person on a bed, a live person, then he's not guilty even for the bed. Again, we say not guilty means he doesn't have to bring a sin offering, but he shouldn't do that. Okay, continues the Mishnayot. More abnormal things that you shouldn't do, but if you do them, you don't have to bring a sin offering. Someone cuts his nails by cutting them one on the other, or by biting them with his teeth. V'chein saro, or his hair. V'chein svamo, or his mustache. V'chein skano, or his beard. V'chein agodeles. V'chein akocheles. V'chein apokeses. If he braiding or putting on eye makeup or making a part in a hair, meaning like a professional hairstyle or putting on makeup, these are considered malachot on Shabbat. So we have two things here. We have the halacha of cutting or pulling out hair in an abnormal way, you're not guilty. And that would be not guilty according to the Chachamim. It says, Rabbi Eliezer Mechayev. Rabbi Eliezer says, however, that in all these cases you are guilty. The Chachamim osrin mishum shvus. The Chachamim say that although you won't be guilty of a sin offering, you're not allowed to do that because of a decree of the rabbis. Because you might come to cut your hair or do these things on Shabbat. Now, just to know, these are separate malachot. Cutting your nails or your hair is the malacha of shearing, right? Taking off hair from a living thing. In these other examples, it's a different malacha. So here's someone pulling his hair, pulling his mustache off. The Chachamim would say you should not do that on Shabbat because of rabbinic decree. If you did it with a scissors or tweezers, then you would be guilty of a sin offering. A case of braiding, like a woman braiding her hair or putting on eye makeup or making a part, it's considered, putting on the makeup is considered a form of writing, the malacha of writing, so you can't do that. And making the braid is considered bona, is considered building, you're making something new. Hatolesh me'atzitz nakuv. If somebody pulls out a plant, so we know that's the malacha of kotzer, of cutting a plant. Chayav, if it's from a pot that has a hole in it, so a flower pot, you may think that it's not connected to the earth, so it's technically not the malacha of pulling it out from the ground. But if the flower pot had a hole in the bottom, which allows the soil in the pot to connect with the soil of the earth, and maybe the roots to go down into the earth, so then, chayav, you're guilty because you pulled out a plant from the ground. V'she'ena nakov, however, if the pot did not have a hole, patur, although you're not allowed to do it, you won't have to bring a sin offering because it's not exactly like pulling it out of the ground, which is the malacha. Rabbi Shimon poter b'zeh b'zeh. Rabbi Shimon says both cases you're not guilty. Okay. The halacha does not follow Rabbi Shimon. If it has a hole in it, you have to bring a sin offering. If it does not have a hole in it, you won't bring a sin offering, but you still shouldn't be pulling plants out on Shabbat either way.